Good morning.
Morning.
I just briefly spoke to the mayor, and he got another phone call, but hopefully he remembers. Morning, Jessica.
Good morning. Trying to get all my things situated here.
Andrew, did you get my proxy?
Yes, ma'am. I
Thank you.
forwarded it to Jessica for the record.
Thank you.
Everybody's so quiet this morning.
We're somber. The word is somber.
Somber.
Yes.
Morning.
That's
Well-
me barking.
Well, the hour is here. We are live. We are recording. We have a quorum. So I'll turn it over to you, Mayor. It's
Good morning, everybody.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Judge. Okay, well then, if Andrew, we are live and recording.
you got it.
Thank you. Then why don't we go ahead and call our meeting to order? If you could let the record show, Jessica, that we have 2 commissioners present and we have 1 proxy. Hey, Gina,
Good morning.
thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Scott has already sent us a copy of the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting. Is there a motion that they be approved?
I'd like to make a motion to approve those as presented.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Gina?
I will second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Scott, you've had some very big news for your staff and the commission recently that I know you're got to be excited about. So why don't you bring us up to date on that news?
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we've been quite a buzz since last week, since this happened. We're very excited and we're moving forward. We do have the lease approved from the water company board. They approved that last week. So I guess we'll be executing that. The next steps, Andrew, would be for the mayor and I to sign it and send it on to the water company.
Yeah, well, I think the next step would be to decide what the date is that you're going to fill in for the move, knowing all the things that you've got to get done. But yes, I mean, technically the next step is to sign it make sure that everybody's okay with that date, both us and them.
Okay.
And you've already started all your preliminary work. We talked about that last week on getting IT stuff together, but yes.
Yes, we're very much in the preliminary stages of that. I sent an email this morning with the template that I've put together. It's very preliminary. We've only had a couple of the moving companies in to view our space and start putting together quotes. Jessica and I will be going over to meet with Courson and our contractor at 2:00 this afternoon to the water company space to look at that. That's the $24,000 that the commissioners had already approved, the countermeasures for the physical space here. And it's my belief that most of those, if not all of them, will be also necessary over there. So they'll have to remeasure and I guess give us an update on what that proposal would be based on that particular space. So what I sent out today, again, is very preliminary, but we're starting to do some research and plug some numbers in. So we'd like to be in before the holidays, tentatively on that document. I had put December 3rd, that maybe that Thursday and Friday would be our move-in dates, but all that's going to be contingent on a lot of other factors, which we don't have any concrete information on yet, not the least of which is the countermeasures that we would have to get a quote on, get the new proposal if it's going to exceed the $24,000 that was already approved. And then getting the water company to approve the changes to that physical space.
Good. Andrew, in terms of the start date, if we take control of the space to start improving it, do we start paying rent then, or do we not pay rent until we actually move in and utilize?
Yeah.
If I'm the owner, I'm going to want you to start paying rent from the date I give you control.
Yeah. Under normal circumstances, I think you're absolutely right. The moment we started making changes and it is occupiable, you're right, you'd pay rent. So I think that's one of the things that we would discuss with Chase, but from a good neighbor standpoint, that does make sense. And I don't know why we would object to that. And that gives us incentive to get things done quicker.
So then the timeline would be we would get the lease fully executed, we would take possession of the keys, and then that would be the start date when we would start paying rent.
Right.
Okay. Seems pretty straightforward to me, Scott.
I agree.
Is there any questions for Scott about that move? And Scott, I did have a chance to just glance through that preliminary stuff that you sent earlier this morning, and it looks like you all are certainly anticipating moving this along with due haste.
Yes, and we're because of COVID, some of the normal channels to get maybe some used furniture like the conference table, things of that nature, are a bit tenuous right now, but we're still in the early stages of researching that. We certainly don't want to pay retail for anything if we can avoid it. And were some outstanding items. I think Gina had actually sent us a link in November, I believe it was November of last year. But everything has changed obviously since then about how that works, if it's working, how we bid on those and get those. But that's something we're definitely going to put some effort into trying to research where we can get the best bargains for the items that we're going to need, because it is a much bigger space. We'll need, to supplement the number of chairs we have in the lobby area. And we do have space for a conference table, conference chairs, and we'll need a couple of desks, things of that nature. But we'll be good stewards with that and be sure that we can get the best bargains we can.
Well, I know the commission has been glad to provide the best space that we could up until this point. I think that we share your enthusiasm with you moving out of the basement.
Thank you. We appreciate your support as we move forward with this.
We are trying to get our phone vendor, FYI, the city's phone vendor integration partners, to get a quote for them to get them added to our phone system, because it will be at a significant cost savings to do so. They don't, instead of having, if they're going to go with VoIP, which is sort of the gold standard these days, instead of having to buy all the brains and the phones, they just have to buy the phones at a gateway, kind of like we did with building electrical and code, and it worked really well. So all they'll have to do is get internet and internal infrastructure for, their routers and their all of their Ethernet connections, things like that. And I think that that's already well underway. You guys have got your folks working on it, and I think that kind of thing is what's going to take time, pulling all those things together, getting quotes, bidding it out where you have to, that kind of thing. But that actually saves you having to bid it out if you're just joining our system.
Yeah, and like one thing we talked about with Andrew last week was also possibility of keeping our servers here and building a VPN tunnel and the infrastructure in that regard at the new space. A lot of advantage to that security-wise as well as cost-wise. So that information has already been sent to Sufficity, and I'm hoping to maybe hear back from them by the end of the week, and when we can set up a conference call and discuss that, maybe set up a time for them to look at it. Because the space is unoccupied, obviously we have a tremendous advantage. So I think it would be well worth the paying the additional rent during this time to have essentially unfettered access to get these folks in here as needed, so that ideally, the phones and the internet and everything's working. And then once that's in place, then we'll talk about the move and the target date for actually moving in and when we'll open there. So there's a lot of balls in the air right now.
Yeah, but they're really kind of fun and exciting challenges to have to deal with. So.
They are. It's
Agreed.
definitely invigorating. I'll tell you that.
I'm excited for them, and I'm not moving. Although I did tell them I may come and set up a remote office.
Yes.
Because all that space they got.
But you can come down and occupy the conference room anytime.
Okay. Next on our agenda is a general discussion. And Scott, if I could just start by saying, reading through your commissioner's report, some really interesting information about new businesses and closed businesses and how those relate to last year, and how those beginning to see a bit of the contraction in the economy, I assume. Is that correct?
Well, we're definitely, we have fewer new businesses opening than we did this same time last year. And we have more businesses closing than we did this time last year. But we're still, averaging in the high 70s per month as far as new businesses opening, which is consistent with prior years. It'll be interesting to see. We normally see a big push when all the net profit returns are filed, because a lot of new businesses, they will register and file their return at the same time. And that deadline is approaching on October 15th. So I anticipate we might see a big boost in the October numbers as a result of that. So it'd be interesting to see where we end up this year. But yes, we are trending down in the number of new businesses and up in the number of closed businesses, but not to the degree that I would have expected.
Okay. Any questions before Scott, whatever's on your mind, question from Scott's report? Are there specific items that you'd like to draw out or bring to our attention?
There's just one thing I want to draw your attention to. And again, these are items that do not require any board action. But the fifth bullet point, I did want to make you aware that we have started using the tool. I got with Tim Jenkins over at the PDA. That's a wealth of information on their website, and it goes even deeper than most people know. But Tim walked me through how to get into the commercial property transfers, which has been a treasure trove of compliance for us. Even just scratching the surface. And we have found quite a bit of potential, what has the potential for additional tax revenue, people that are selling millions of dollars in commercial property, and people that have multiple properties that are renting properties here that are not filing. So Jessica's been on that. And in fact, it's a full-blown project at this point with us. But we expect that to pay some pretty significant dividends down the road.
And it's also it is rattling some cages. So just as an FYI that project is occurring, we're getting lots of calls, and these are often very big commercial real estate transactions, just as Scott mentioned. So we are getting lots of lively phone calls.
From a compliance point of view, I'm sure that's kind of a happy event as well.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Not for those that get the letters, but.
No, I mean from the home perspective.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of it is, as Scott said, this is something we hope to do each year. We've started with 17 and we're kind of working our way forward. Our Rashay, our admin, is doing the lower level client, what would be a lower level account, because there's going to be less of a legal response to it. The accounts where there's going to be significant transactions, those are just coming back to me, and we've started that. But we have gotten a lot of people registered as well who didn't know, and so those are going to be reflected on the new accounts moving forward and over the next few months as well.
The other nice things about this tool is that, first of all, it doesn't cost us anything. It's public information. It's out on the PBA's website, which is very user-friendly. We don't have to, get any type of special agreements to share this information. It's public information. And as I mentioned, it's something that's constantly changing and something we have access to 24/7. So it kind of checks all the boxes. It's a great compliance tool, and we're happy to start using it.
And it's hard to refute when you send the PVA listing that shows the date of the transaction,
And the dollar amount.
which I find to be really helpful because there's very little contesting, honestly. So
That probably reduces the length of some conversations.
it definitely does. Yeah. Unless, which none of them have been successful yet, if they can show it's non-commercial or if it was purely personal, but typically that wouldn't happen with commercial space and or hundreds of acres of land.
Good. Good. Well, Tim actually, from what I understand, really strong PBA and has an affinity for electronics and data and tends to make that available to the public. So
It's very evident from their website. Yes.
yeah. So I'm glad you're finding that useful. Are there other things, Scott, under general discussion?
No, it's all, just new numbers, different month for a lot of your benefit there. The KJRA, we did get the Q2 KBI reimbursement from International Crankshaft. That's something we don't see every month, but otherwise it's pretty much the same. But I did want to bring that PBA tool to your attention to let you know that's we're very excited about that as well.
Good. Something that I thought was interesting, Judge, on the Kentucky Jobs Retention Act form. Scott's shown us what our original total obligation for city and county is under those programs and how much we've paid and been invoiced for to date and how much is remaining. And for me, it was kind of a positive story. Those numbers, we started off with a $19 million obligation, and we've now gotten, each city and county have gotten those obligations down to, I think, 8.4 million, Scott?
Yes.
So when you think about big picture stuff that we've accomplished, we've paid a $19 million, each of us have paid a $19 million obligation down to just over 8 million.
It's encouraging.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we ought to talk about occasionally in meetings, that in addition to everything else we've done, we've met that obligation and have paid it down that far.
The light
That was helpful.
not far away.
Yeah.
Light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Well, and it's helpful for you to point that out to us sometimes. We get caught up and miss the obvious.
Glad to do it. Anything else you'd like me to present? I'd be happy to get it together and present it at any meeting. We're still working on, with our FileMaker system, but we're making some progress in getting better reports and more accurate information. And, after we get moved into this location, that's definitely something maybe in 2021 we'll be looking at. Time to talk about a new tax system at some point so we can really give you some very timely information.
Good.
God, are you talking about software update that we've discussed in the past?
Yes, not that particular vendor necessarily.
I didn't name any vendor. I was software update.
Yeah, software update. Yes, sir. That is exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
Good. Gina, do you have anything to ask the staff or the commission?
No, everything looks great and in order. The collections we knew were going to be down, but hopefully that new business is still being greater than our closed businesses will continue to absorb a little bit of the effects of COVID.
Good. Thank you. Judge, anything you got to add today?
I'm just glad to be here and trying to move the ship down the river. So
The judge is just trying to avoid calls from me today. We were laughing about that now. Okay, Scott, if is there any other business come before the commission?
No, next meeting, special call meeting be October the 18th, Wednesday at 10 a.m.
Sounds good. We look forward to it.
Thanks, everyone.
Motion
Thank
to
you
adjourn.
all.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Just a quick question that you said October 18th on the agenda. It says October 28th.
I'm sorry, if I said 18th, I misspoke. It's the 28th.
Okay. All right. I second that agenda.
So we have a motion to adjourn and Gina has
I
a second.
second, please.
We can vote by clicking the leave meeting button.
Thank you.